Howdy y'all, Stock Warden here, back with another video. In today's video, we're looking at Immunity Bio Incorporated, and man, they have gotten themselves into a little bit of a problem. And that's showing onto why this stock has started tumbling a little bit from its 52-week high of $12.43 a share. Now, given that's not the high that it closed, but that is the apex of where this stock had reached. So now they are in a class action lawsuit which seeks to represent investors who purchased Immunity Bio between January 19th and March 24th of 2026. So if we go back and we look at where January 19th was, then you are looking right here. So January 19th would be a Monday. And then this here is showing January 20th of 2026. So in between these two candles here, where you're looking anywhere between the closing of this day at $5.50 a share upwards into probably your almost $7 a share range, people had bought Immunity Bio and rode it way up. And then on March the 24th is whenever the stock decided it was going to take a massive hit, whenever the FDA actually had came out and noticed everything that Immunity had ended up happening. So given it is a little bit, I would consider it a bit of a bump, because it wasn't like they had a huge misunderstanding and a large portion of, lies and liabilities. It was just a little bit deeper on the aspect of kind of fluffing the business aspect of Immunity Bio and how far their product can go. So just to kind of do a deep dive on what actually happened here. So you had on January 19th a direct-to-consumer podcast aired featuring Sun Xiong. And during the podcast, he said that while Ankita is approved for bladder cancer, he said it can actually treat all cancers. And then he also had made other questionable claims about the Anktiva virus, which altogether ended up being flagged by the FDA as misleading. So the financial press reported that the FDA ended up sending a warning letter over claims made in the podcast and TV ad. So the warning letter had stated that the FDA has determined that the TV ad and podcast are false or misleading. So the promotional materials create the misleading impression that Anktiva, which is a treatment for a specific type of bladder cancer, can cure and even prevent all cancers. So, in addition to all of that, the FDA warned that the representations in the TV ad and podcast misleadingly suggest that the Anktiva will allow all NMIBC patients treated with Anktiva to be cancer-free for the long term, when this has not been demonstrated in its entirety from the Anktiva treatment yet. So they're failing to provide material information regarding the Anktiva's full FDA-approved indication as well. So they're talking about claiming a lot of things that Anktiva can't do and or has not been proven to do yet. So the FDA is more or less stating that that was a huge turning point for the stock, which it is very possible that a lot of the buys that came in during the January 19th up until your March 24th of 2026, that within this area we had a huge influx of new shareholders for the stock. And that could have been the reason why it was driving the price up as high as it is. So, but with all of this, the shares dropped over 21% on March 24th whenever all of this was initially happening, but it wasn't brought out to the public until a later date. So now they're practically erasing nearly a $2 billion market cap from Immunity Bio's portfolio now. So if you've invested in Immunity Bio and have substantial losses, then you can submit your losses, so then you can actually be able to recoup what you ended up losing if you did buy in during that period of time. So, and you can find all that out and get more questions and investigative questions and stuff like that if you did purchase Immunity Bio during that time period on the Immunity Bio IBRX website. So if you were to have bought way high, and then as you can see it has went down tremendously from $12 down to about $7.60 is where it ended today, then you could be compensated for your loss. So now on the backside of all that, given it was a large hiccup that they had ended up taking on with something like that, where they're trying to take on more than what they're actually proven to do, supposedly misleading a lot of people. If you kind of go back, and we'll talk about some of the financials of everything, we're going to kind of talk about a preliminary Q1 product revenue. So they've got approximately 44.2 million, which is a 168% increase from the year before on their Q1 earnings report. So, and the company said that as of March 31st, it had an estimated 380.9 million in cash equivalents, and marketable securities. So now they're also looking at a very strong finance as well for the company, because Q1 they ended up not meeting their expectations in 2025, but their Q2, 3, and 4 of 2025 they had exceeded expectations and continued to grow. So now Q1 of 2026 is looking to do the same thing and to keep that same trend running. So all of that is going to be coming in and bringing in more revenue for Immunity Bio, even with this class action lawsuit. Luckily, it is only just a class action lawsuit, and it's not something much bigger than what it could be. So depending on how all of that ends and how many people are going to try to be claiming on the loss of Immunity Bio, will determine on where the stock is technically going to perform, because there are a lot of people that are on the fence on the sentiment of Immunity Bio, on if they're going to continue holding their shares or if they're just going to sell off in its entirety. So now, given even with all of that news and also having a little bit of their downside for all of the loss that they have generated due to this class action lawsuit, they still are able to continue expanding across the global market and continue jumping revenue. So the company is still not going to go anywhere. The company is still relevant, and also they don't seem to be in that deep of water, and it's not going to be that large of a hiccup to what I'm seeing as far as the sentiment and the price targets and everything else goes, there hasn't been a lot of major downside on everything, because you only have something that one person said out of line on their product, which, given it is a big deal when it comes to the stock market and somewhat swindling people into buying more shares. But at the end of the day, the entire company in its entirety is not going to be demolished by one guy a little bit overextending himself on talking about how great their product is, because he could have just got caught up in how great the product is and just kind of fluffed a little bit, and now he's having to sit in the mess that he made. So with all that being said, I still believe that Immunity Bio is a strong stock, and it will continue to be a strong stock as the time goes on. So obviously, even with all of that going on, the stock is still able to hold on to a decent price point, and it's not just completely tanking. So, but you can definitely see it has been steadily dropping off. So, and especially since March 24th, whenever the class action lawsuit was first put in, it still hasn't necessarily bounced back, but you can definitely tell that it has leveled out over the past 2 weeks. So, with all that being said, we will come back and double check on this stock after the Q1 results are fully released with all of their new results and also their comparison from 2025. So that'll give us a little bit better of an idea on which direction the stock is going to be pointing towards. Also, when the class action lawsuit is over and the deadline is over for the people to be able to claim those losses, then we'll be definitely able to see where this stock should be heading. So, with all that being said, I hope you all enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to not miss out on any of the awesome stocks or any of the awesome opportunities that we have bringing in on this channel. And if you have a specific stock or you have a specific company in mind that you want a little bit more research done about and or a little more digging, drop it down in the comments below. I'd love to be able to do yet another awesome stock and bring it out to the rest of the community. So, this is the Stock Warden riding off. Y'all come back now, you hear?